Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Inspired and Empowered Living TV show and podcast. We are live Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern on talk4tv.com, w4wn.com, and my YouTube channel. And today we are talking about mastering emotions, mastering life, the power of emotional intelligence. So emotional intelligence is a game changer, personally and professionally. It's one of the most important keys in life and in business. And today you will discover the core principles of emotional intelligence, how emotional intelligence can transform your relationships, your career, and your life, and discover the number one mistake that can block your path to creating a life you love. So, and how to avoid it. And I'm your host, Nanci Deutsch, licensed clinical social worker, certified hypnotherapist, and intuitive business expert. And today, and also I want to remind you that this show is not a replacement for therapy or counseling. It is for educational purposes only. And so, what is emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence. So, think about this. Have you ever been like you feel really worked up or really upset or really anxious or frustrated and you didn't know what to do with your emotions? This episode is going to help you to understand how to work through them and continuing to process your emotions so that you have healthy EQ. And we will talk about the difference between IQ and EQ. So, first of all, the definition of emotional intelligence is your ability to recognize, understand, and manage your emotions, and to recognize, understand, and positively influence other people's emotions. And really, bottom line is it's emotional mastery. But it's not about suppressing emotions. It's not about pushing them under the rug or sweeping them away. What it is about is using them wisely. And it's learning to ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Learning to recognize, acknowledge the feeling instead of disowning it or not being aware of it. And then it's being able to make a choice, which empowers you, a choice to respond instead of react. So before I go further, and I also just want you to know that I know Anastasia had asked me last week about breathing, and we're going to get into that because that is a tool that you can use to help you in your emotional mastery. So, Anastasia, if you're listening, I just want you to know I got you. I haven't forgotten your request. So wanted to let you know. And so first let me do, okay. Mickey, I see your question and I'll get to it shortly. So you have your conscious mind, and your conscious mind is that part of you that tuned into the show, whether you're listening live in the chat and responding, or you're at a later time viewing or listening to the show. And thank you, conscious mind of yours. So that's your conscious mind. And your conscious mind makes those conscious, aware decisions that empower you. Now, your conscious mind is the part that responds. Your conscious mind is in charge of responding. However, when you react, it's coming from your subconscious mind. And your subconscious mind is the part of you from the moment you were conceived to present time that has recorded every moment that you have been alive, including from, like I said, conception and present. And it can also include ancestral trauma and issues and limitations and emotions. And it can also include past life. That's all in your subconscious mind. And so when you're reacting, but I will tell you, most of the time, when you react, more than likely, especially if you haven't done a lot of work on your emotions, more than likely it's coming from this lifetime. And it's coming from childhood patterns. And we're going to get into that more deeply as well. So, and then you have your superconscious mind, which is the higher self part of you, this wise, unconditionally loving part of you, there for the asking. And you have your soul, the core energy, essence of who you are. That is your light and your love and your wisdom coming through. And then there's the universe or the God or the higher power, whatever you choose to call it. And in your superconscious mind are your angels and guides and beings of light. Now, when you are in responding, there is an alignment between all aspects of self. And you're making that conscious choice to respond rather than react. When you're in reaction and reaction is getting triggered, it's reacting in an emotional way. So if all of a sudden you're fine and then you get angry or you get frustrated, or maybe you wake up and you're in fear and you don't know why, there's something going on. You're in reaction, and that's part of what needs to be worked through. So we're going to talk more about that. And I see Anastasia says thank you. So just wanted to let you know, so I know you're listening. Cool. And I will get into emotions, not emotions, but breathing to help with your emotions. Okay. Now, first, let me get back to Mickey's question. Mickey said, do you find people react faster than responding? Okay. So when you react, yes, people, when your first instinct, okay, is reaction. And this is a common human thing across the board, okay? As a human being, we have been trained to react. It's instinctual. And what happens is that reaction is the fight or flight, and it happens like that. Yes, Misty says reacting can happen without thinking. Exactly. Reacting is boom, it happens. And it's the fight, flight, or freeze reaction that happens. So when you're in reaction mode and you've gotten triggered, you may react with the fight, which is maybe anger and aggression or frustration, and you have that angry tone in your voice, that's reaction. Or fleeing, running, hiding. When you're in that, I'll tell you in a sec. When you're in fleeing mode and you're in fear, you're reacting too. And I also want you to know this: the reaction mode, as I said, it is instinctual, and it's coming from the part of us, the part of our brain that is protective. But what happens in our life and in society, and as you grow up, you want to learn how to respond rather than reacting. Now, it takes practice, it takes work. And one of my mentors once said, it's not never reacting, because that's not human, but it's how quickly you can bring yourself back. So once you understand the reactions, then you can start using tools that will bring you back into the ability to respond. And when you know your triggers, and or you know the person, let's say you know somebody is triggering you, then you can be on, and you know that you can find the ways to respond rather than react, or go into response pretty quickly. And I also want you to know that when you're learning these skills, it can take time. It totally can take time. So be gentle with yourself, because that's part of emotional intelligence, in my opinion. It's being able to have that compassion with yourself. Now, Misty says, responding can be thought on before acting. Yes. Yes, Misty. So what she's saying is that once you process through the emotions, then you can make the choice to respond before you take an action. And that is emotional intelligence. And we're going to go even deeper into it. So, but first, I want to let you know the difference, because sometimes people get confused between intelligence quotient and emotional quotient. And so I am going to define the difference for you. So your IQ is all about your intelligence. It's what they tested when you were growing up in school. It's your intellectual ability. And your emotional IQ is how well, like what I just defined, how well you're able to learn how to respond, how to deal with your emotions, not suppress them, how to be able to deal with your emotions in a positive way, and then also and learn how to empathize and connect with your emotions and acknowledge yourself, and also learning how to do that with others and have a positive effect on other people. So all of that is part of emotional EQ. Now, what's really interesting is that emotional quotient, emotional intelligence is actually a better predictor, a stronger predictor, this is through research, of success in leadership, in relationships, and in business than IQ. If you can think of your IQ, your intelligence, as your technical ability, and emotional, your EQ, as your ability to thrive in real world human interactions. And you know as well as I know, we live in a world where we're dealing with humans and other people all the time. So the better emotional intelligence you have, the better your success in your life and in your business. So that's why it's so powerful, so important. And now what happens with why is emotional intelligence so important? It's so important because it's how you handle stress. So, just like I was talking about that stress response, which is instinctual, everybody has it. It's all about the wires in our brain. And but here's the thing, what happens is even when there's no danger, if you're someone who tends to be anxious or has a lot of fear, most of the time, what has happened is your nervous system has gone on automatic and it's in a chronic state of stress. And so, emotional intelligence is your ability to be able to handle that stress in healthy, productive ways, not in unhealthy, destructive ways. And what I mean by that is now, if any of you, and this is if any of you use food or sugar or alcohol or any kind of addictions to escape your emotions, there's healing in your emotional intelligence that needs to happen. And it's learned. And what I really want to remind all of you that life is a journey, it's not a destination. We're all on the journey of life, learning and growing along the way. And so, even if you may have an issue that you're working on, the more that you have awareness of it, the more then you can take positive action. And the more you learn emotional intelligence and emotional mastery, the more successful you will be at being able to handle your stress and any kind of addictions you have, or hopefully recovering from those addictions. And we all have something. I just want to let you know, every single one of us, it's what we've learned. And now, what I invite you to is to be able to learn new tools, new techniques, new ways of handling your stress and handling the things that you need to handle so that you're able to master your emotions, work with your emotions, heal your emotions. Now, emotional intelligence also really makes a difference in your ability to be a leader and your ability to have business success. How can you have business success if you don't have emotional intelligence? And now all of us have had experiences, or I shouldn't say all of us, many of us have had experiences with bosses or coworkers or relationships where there was no emotional intelligence. And I've done shows where we talked about raging, the ragers, where you forget it at the drop of a hat, or you'd have to walk on eggshells because they would go off in a rage. If someone's a rager, they are not emotionally intelligent. Hopefully they're going to work on it. And all of us have had those experiences. But if you want to be a successful business owner or have a successful business or have a successful relationship, have a successful life, you need to learn how to master those emotions, how to deal with them, how to work through them, how to process them so that you gain that health and freedom and life that you really want. So, and what happens is also with emotional intelligence, when you have emotional intelligence, it strengthens your relationships. Your relationships get healthier, they get stronger. You can have more intimacy in your romantic relationships, partners, and or you can have more intimacy in close friendships. Really crucial, amazing, and really important. And I see we have a question came in from Misty. Misty asks, is that because they can't control themselves? Yes. What happens is when you do not have emotional intelligence or emotional mastery, and you're in reaction, and you're totally reacting, and ragers react with aggression. They're in fight mode. You may do nothing, or you may say something and boom, they could get triggered. You never know what's going to trigger them. It depends also how intense and how bad the rager is, but they can blow up really easily. And what happens is ragers, or even when it could be you, or when someone gets angry because they've been in reaction, it's because you're not able to control the reaction until you learn more awareness, until you learn more emotional intelligence. And as you learn, and I want you all to know, emotional intelligence is a skill that can be learned. Everything that I am talking about is something every single one of you can learn. Now, some of you may be better at some of the skills than others, because one of the skills is called empathy. And some of you may be naturally empathetic, and maybe to a fault. Because if you're what we call an empath, you're picking up too many feelings. But this is about learning, again, not to go into the reaction, but to go into the response and be able to learn how to respond rather than react. And when someone is in that energy of reaction, now it could be rage, but it also could be fear. I mean, how many of you all of a sudden you'll be talking to somebody now, and or you may have a relative or someone you know, maybe even you, who could be an intimidator. Now, intimidators are, what they do is they're aggressive and they react with aggression. They may not be necessarily going to a rage, but the way they intimidate is there's the question is the interrogators. They're like lawyers, but they go, what are you doing? And how are you doing it? And blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And then what happens on your end is you can all of a sudden you go like into fear, and you start getting fearful of them, or you could go into freeze and you shut down. Now, emotional intelligence is being able to learn how to work through all of that, because all of those are reactions. They're reactions to people's behavior. And as you become more skilled and as you become more emotionally intelligent, then you're able to navigate and be able to navigate other people's behavior. And eventually, as you become more and more and more emotionally intelligent, and it's a process, it's a journey. Listen, I teach it, I work on living it, and I'm still in the process of mastering it, working on it. It's and it's the journey. Like I said, it's a journey. And just the most important thing I want you all to know is that you're listening to the show. that you're willing to learn, you're open, those of you that are asking questions, you're willing to ask the questions and learn more about yourself and more about how to help yourself, how to gain that emotional mastery, the emotional intelligence. Again, it's this journey. It's not a destination. And I also want you to know that even enlightened beings like the Dalai Lama, like we think Dalai Lama is a spiritual being and he never gets angry. And I remember hearing things that he too gets angry. But again, you may become aware of the anger. And instead of going, like, I'll give you an example. Instead of going into a rage or total full blown reaction, or totally get pissed off, or answer somebody back in a rude way or an aggressive way, you say, okay, well, you know what? I am noticing awareness. Awareness is crucial in emotional intelligence. I am noticing that I am feeling angry right now. I just reacted. So, what do I do to choose to respond now? Now, if you're really angry and you know that you're not going to be able to calm yourself down because you've been really triggered, and the trigger usually comes from something from your past. And if you know that you can't calm yourself down, I always say, because with anger or rage, you do not want to react where you're hurting yourself, someone else, or the environment. Take a time out. Time out. Mickey says, aggressive reactions can be relieving. Okay. So I'll get to that. Thank you for saying that, Mickey, because that's good and important. Okay. So if you're with another person, all right, remember the rule is not to hurt yourself, someone else, or the environment. Now, that means hitting or doing something physically aggressive. It means acting from an emotional place and saying something that you will later regret. Or it means not, or destroying property or hurting somebody else's property. That's all aggressive behaviors you do not want to be doing, because then you'll later regret it. Now, aggressive reactions can be relieving at times, what Mickey just said. So the way that I tell people to deal with their aggression is to use exercise. If you need to go to the gym and use the punching bag, boom, 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 use the punching bag. That's not going to hurt anybody else. Or if you need to run a mile or two, run it out, breathe it out. And we're going to get to, I haven't forgotten, Anastasia, we'll get to the breathing. And so you want to find a way to get out that aggression in healthy, productive ways that are not hurting yourself, someone else, or the environment. So aggression. Now, when I would do emotional release work, and you can punch pillows. And then, I say scream. Now, if you're in a place where you can't really scream, like sometimes I actually scream in my car. So I know nobody, not while I'm driving, but when I'm stopped or before I start. So I encourage you, if you need to scream, or you can twist a towel. I tell clients, get a towel. Usually a hand towel is more easily. And you twist the towel and you just breathe out that anger and aggression. You want to find a healthy way of getting the aggression out. And so, yes, having aggressive reactions that you channel that aggressive energy in a healthy way. So hopefully that's helpful, Mickey, and something to think about, all of you, so that it's not denying the anger. It's not denying that you feel angry or you've had a reaction. That, let me make that really clear. It's not about denying it. It's about learning new ways to cope, new ways to channel that behavior or those feelings, that really channel the feelings so that you are allowing yourself to be able to move through the anger so that you can get clarity and be able to respond. Really big, really big. And before we go to the next piece, what I want to let you know, very exciting. So I have a workshop, a free virtual workshop coming next Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. And for any of you who are women coaches, therapists, nurses, holistic professionals, if you're someone who believes in holistic health, which is body, mind, emotion, spirit, and you really want to grow your business or you want to start a business, you want to come to this workshop, Passion, Purpose, and Profit, a proven plan for holistic business success. And during the workshop, we will work on you consistently how to attract your ideal clients, how to clarify money blocks and create a profitable business, and learn how to confidently market and monetize your gifts. And this workshop, I said it's free. There's so much you're gonna learn. So I really invite you to join me next week. And Rebel, can you put in the link in the chat? And the link for those of you who are listening is inspiredandempoweredliving.com/workshop. Again, it's the name of the show, inspiredandempoweredliving.com/workshop. And Rebel's going to put the links in. So I invite you to join me. And I'd love to see you and support you on your journey to growing a more profitable business that your heart and soul are calling you to do. Following your passion, following your purpose. No, it's all possible for you. So continuing with emotional intelligence. Now, I said that awareness is huge. It's huge when we're talking about emotional intelligence. And what is self-awareness? I'll define it for you. It's recognizing your emotions and the impact they have. So when you're in that reaction and you go, oh, I'm reacting right now. And now some of you may realize that you already reacted, but part of that journey to emotional intelligence is learning to rein it in before you react and to work through it. So one of the tools that I use, and this tool can also be used for self-awareness, to learn, once you become aware that you're having a feeling and a reaction, one of the tools you can use is breathing. Now, and Anastasia asked last week if we could go over the breathing that I've done before on past shows. So we're going to go through the breathing exercise that actually what it does is it actually shifts your nervous system from anxious or fear or anger to calmer, more peaceful, more relaxed. Now, I'm just going to do a brief demonstration, and this is something that you can practice. Come back to the podcast or the show on YouTube, and you can practice again and then stop it and continue on and continue to work with it to really help you with it. Okay. So one of the breathing that I like to do, that I love to teach my clients, is called belly breathing. And belly breathing is how I like to teach it is you want to put your hand on your stomach, your hands on your stomach. Now, if you're just learning this and you want to try lying down, obviously you're not driving, and I'm going to support you not to do this when you're driving. If you get expert at it, you could do it while you're driving with eyes on the road and hands on the wheel. But when you're first learning it, I would really support you in practicing it, okay, with the hands on the belly. And instead of, when I first learned it, I was actually taking voice lessons, and I would lay down with a heavy book on my belly and practice the breathing. Now, I still like to put my hands on my belly, because then I get to see the rise and fall and know if I'm doing it right or not. So everybody put your hands on your belly, and then you're going to breathe in. Now, this may be counterintuitive, but when you breathe in, your belly's going to go out and up. And when you breathe out, your belly goes down. So again, you're going to breathe in and your belly goes up. It's your diaphragm. What's happening is when you breathe in, your diaphragm, this is correct breathing, your diaphragm expands and goes up. And when you breathe out, it goes down. So your belly, okay? So breathe in, belly out. Breathe out, belly in. Breathe in, belly out. Breathe out, belly in. So Anastasia, will it work the same if sitting or standing? Yes, it can work the same if you're sitting or standing. The advantage of sitting or standing, you know what? I've never tried it standing, but if you want to stand and try it, go for it. Look, the most important thing is having your hands on your belly, or really the most important thing is the breathing and watching your breath go. Your breath expand your belly and contract, expand and contract. So, but the reason why I like saying put your hands on your belly is it really helps you with the flow, and it helps you to see if your belly's going up and if your belly's going down. You see it, you feel it, you experience it. So it helps with instead of using a book, like when you were lying down, you're using your hands. So try it, Anastasia. Let me know. I mean, I'm thinking it's the same thing, sitting or standing, but it might be easier to do it sitting but some of you may want to do it standing. If you're in motion and you're feeling like really agitated, you may need to do it standing. I really want to support you to do it any way that works for you. Okay, so belly, hands on your belly. Breathing in, belly expands. And then breathing out, belly contracts. Breathing in, belly expands. Breathing out, belly contracts. Breathing in, belly expands. Breathing out, belly contracts. And notice after a few breaths, how you feeling? How are you feeling now? And are you noticing that you're more relaxed? Are you noticing that you're feeling calmer? Are you noticing that some of those feelings that you had maybe before? And even if this is not happening now, you can notice afterwards. This is the awareness piece, to notice what you're feeling. So, just to recap, we're going to continue emotional intelligence part 2 next week. Okay, because this is a huge topic that I want you all to have a great handle on, because this is the key to a successful life. So you want to make sure that you learn that you are, we talked about reaction, and reaction coming from your subconscious mind because you've gotten triggered, and learning to calm yourself down. Breathing is one of the tools that we can use. The belly breath can really help you. And you want to learn not to react. It's the journey of being able to respond rather than react. And we're going to continue more with more emotional intelligence next week. And I really want to wish you all an inspired and empowered day, night, and week. Have a great one, everybody. Goodbye for now.